at home in Vrindavan, a devotee placed a large silver plate full of prasad on the table before Srila Prabhupada. He picked up a small sweet and tasted it, then the piece was Bhagavatam. The 100 devotees who squeezed into the room and looked in from the doorway watched his every movement with fixed attention. There was complete silence. Then Srila Prabhupada looked up smiling. So, he said, is everyone all right? Jai Srila Prabhupada was the warm reply. The tension of seeing Srila Prabhupada's different appearance suddenly melted, and everyone simply wanted to make him feel comfortable and to please him with their service. For the rest of the day, Srila Prabhupada remained alone, resting. Tamal Krishna lectured to the devotees in the temple room, explaining how Srila Prabhupada had decided it was better to travel, even at such a great risk, than to be invalid. Tamal Krishna told him how someone had suggested Srila Prabhupada go to Tehran or Italy or France because of the airport strike in London. But how he had said, I want to go to London, but now he had said, I want to go to London. Srila Prabhupada has come to take shelter of you, said Tamal Krishna. He said that according to Shastra, the devotee should stay in Vrindavan, especially at the end of his life. But because Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master had ordered him to go to the West and preach, he had determined to fulfill the mission until the last. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
So we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's Canto 5, Chapter 17, which is entitled The Descent of the River Ganges. On text 21. Yam Aho Asha Stiti Janma Samyamam Yamaho Asha Stiti Janma Samyamam
Yamaho Stiti Janma Samyamam
Trivya Vihinam Yam Anantam Vishaya Trivya Vihinam Yam Anantam Vishaya Na Veda Siddhartham Iva Kvachit Stitam Na Veda Siddhartham Iva Kvachit Stitam Bhu Mandalam Vedha Sahasra Dame Mashu Bhu Mandalam Murda Sahasra Damashu Yamaho Asya Stiti Janma Samyamam Trivya Vihinam Yam Anantam Veda Siddhartham Iva Kvachit Stitam Bhumandalam Buddha Sahasradamashu Yamaho Asya Stiti Janma Samyamam Trivya Vihinam Yam Anantam Rishaya Naveda Siddhartham Iva Kvachit Stitam Bhumandalam Mudha Sahasradamasu
Yamahurasya Stiti Janma Samyamam
Tribir Vihinam Yam Anantam Rishaya Veda Siddhartham Iva Kvachit Stitam Bhumandalam Mudha Sahasradamasu Yamahurasya Stiti Janma Samyamam Shibhirvihinam yam anantara rishaya Naveda siddhartam iva kvachit sthitam Bhumandalam murda sahasradhamasu
Ladies, Yamaho Ashastiti Janma Sangamam
Shibhirvihinam anantara rishaya Naveda siddhartam iva kvachit sthitam Bhumandalam murda sahasradhamasu Jai
Yam
Yam
Hum
Hum
Ahu
Ahu
They said
They said
Asya
Asya
of the material world
the material world
Stiti
Stiti
the maintenance
the maintenance Janma
creation
creation
Samyamam
Samyamam
annihilation
annihilation
Tribi
Trivi
these three
these three
Vihinam
Vihinam without
Yam
Yam
which
which
Anantam
Anantam
unlimited
unlimited
Rishaya
Rishya
all the great sages
all the great sages
Na
Na
not
Nas
Veda
Veda
feels
feels
Siddhartham
Siddhartham
a mustard seed
a mustard seed
Eva
Eva
like Kvachit
Kvachit
well Stitam
Sthitam
situated
situated
Bhumandalam
Bhumandalam
the universe
the universe
Mudha Sahasradhamasu
Muda Sahasradhamasu
on the hundreds and thousands of hoods of the Lord.
on the hundreds and thousands of hoods of the Lord.
Translation. Lord Shiva continued, all the great sages accept the Lord as the source of creation, maintenance, and destruction, although he actually has nothing to do with these activities. Therefore, the Lord is called unlimited. Although the Lord in his incarnation as Shesha holds all the universes on his hoods, each universe feels no heavier than a mustard seed. Therefore, what person desiring perfection will not worship the Lord? Responsibly, please. Lord Shiva continued.
Lord Shiva continued,
All the great sages
all the great sages
accept the Lord
except the Lord
as the source of creation,
is the source of creation,
maintenance, and destruction,
maintenance and destruction,
although he actually
has nothing
to do with these activities.
to do with these activities.
Therefore, the Lord is called unlimited.
Is called unlimited.
Although the Lord in his incarnation as Shesha
as Shesha,
holds all the universes
holds all the universes
on his hoods.
on his hoods,
Each universe feels no heavier
each universe feels no heavier
than a mustard seed to him.
than a mustard seed to him.
Therefore, what person desiring perfection
Therefore, what perfection
will not worship the Lord?
will not worship the Lord?
Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
The incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead known as Shesha or Ananta has unlimited strength, fame, wealth, knowledge, beauty, and renunciation. As described in this verse, Ananta's strength is so great that the innumerable universes rest on his hoods. He has the bodily features of a snake with thousands of hoods, and since his strength is unlimited, all the universes resting on his hoods feel no heavier than mustard seeds. We can just imagine how insignificant a mustard seed is on the hood of a serpent. In this connection, the reader is referred to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adhoksaja chapter 5, verses 117 to 125. There it is stated that Lord Vishnu's incarnation as the serpentine Ananta Sheshnag supports all the universes on his hoods. By our calculation, the universe may be very, very heavy, but because the Lord is Ananta, unlimited, he feels the weight to be no heavier than a mustard seed. Omega Timiranda Shaganandana Shalakaya Chakshun Malikamaya Tasman Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhustam Stapitam Yena Bhutame Swarukamayam Dati Swapadapita Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Gauri Chananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Bhaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchikalpatarubhishcha Kripasindhya Vinam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Lord Shiva's referring to the Lord as being the source of creation, maintenance, and destruction, although he actually has nothing to do with these activities. So that's interesting, because generally if someone says you have nothing to do with these activities, I mean, usually we're looking for credit. So, you know, if someone sees an amazing painting and you say you painted this, and then you go and find the person and then you give them some credit. That's an amazing painting, that's fantastic, can I give you a round of applause? But for the Lord, it's even more of a glorification to say that he has nothing to do with these activities. He did the painting, but he has nothing to do with the painting. So why is that more of a glorification? If I say, oh, this is the artist that did the painting, everyone's saying amazing, and I say, well, actually, he had nothing to do with the painting, although he did do it. How is that more of a glorification?
Because it's going beyond what the norm, beyond the norm.
He's
going beyond the norms. That's just
yeah.
Most people still they do the painting, but we could go beyond that. So.
Yeah. So yeah. So in the sense that he can annihilate, he can maintain, he can destroy, and he can do it in such a way that it's not taxing him at all. It's no distraction for him to do it at all. Like with an artist who has to do a painting, he has to really struggle to do the painting nicely and aspiring and making a few mistakes and then correcting them. So it's a difficult job, isn't it? Anyone does anything. But the Lord does it so effortlessly that it's like he has nothing to do with it. Although he does it, it's like he has nothing to do with it at the same time. So you can see how that's even more of glorification. It's like the sun is giving off so much light, and you could say to the sun, well done, you know, you're giving off so much light, you must be like getting all that light out. And the sun's like, not really, no, it just happens. Well, that's even more amazing, isn't it? That it's just emanating from the sun, and he's not effortlessly. So this is what God is. They have a God there, the Herculean God, and he's carrying the earth on his shoulders, but he's straining like anything to carry the earth on his shoulders. So we have this idea that, you know, if the universe is really heavy and it's on an Antishesha's head, then he must be really struggling to keep that universe up. But it's saying it's effortless. It's like a mustard seed. You don't even notice a mustard seed. If I come up to you and say, oh, by the way, you've got a mustard seed on your head, you're like, okay, anyway, I want to know who's going to be washing the cars today. You just brush it aside. It means nothing, does it? But what about the mustard seed? Never mind the mustard seed on there. We're trying to get the cars washed. So the universe, I mean, how big is the universe? It's quite big, right? It's how could you even estimate how much it weighs? And it's not even a mustard seed. So we're a speck on a speck in a mustard seed. That's really insignificant, isn't it? If you think about it. And the time we occupy is so, it's not even that. Our whole life isn't even that in the grand scale of things. So that's a really good stress therapy. I'm going to start doing stress therapy. Those can come and I'll just say, speck on a speck, mustard seed. Next. But, you know, I mean, so it's nice the Bhagavatam gives us that perspective so that everything pales into insignificance. And I'm not just approaching an Antishesha, I'm approaching the source of all the expansions. So if it's a mustard seed to an Antishesha, what is it to Krishna? That's how powerful Krishna is. That's how amazing Krishna is. And we're getting access by the chanting of the holy name. I just had a really nice explanation. When we chant, and there's 10 offenses, but they're not actually offenses to the holy name. The 10 offenses are offenses to things like scripture or devotees or the spiritual master, which then the holy name is displeased by, so he stands back a little bit. But the holy name himself, whatever you do wrong, you approach him, then eventually you get free from whatever the offense is if you just continue on chanting. So that's how accessible and kind the Lord is in the form of his holy name. And we're getting privy to that, you know. We're getting to be with Krishna in his most open and accessible mood, you know. We're not approaching an Antishesh, we're not approaching Narayan, we're not approaching all in reverence, we're directly going Krishna with affection. So we can cultivate that affection for Krishna. I was just reading in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that it's only possible to get mercy if you approach Krishna with affection. If you approach him with veneration and awe, then that's very nice, but it doesn't access the mercy. The mercy is accessed only when you approach with affection. So Ananta's strength is so great that all the universes, not just one of them, but all of them, have no, because he's unlimited. So it's hard to, I remember when I was a kid trying to get my head around unlimited, and I was thinking, is the universe unlimited? And then I thought, well, probably not, probably there's a brick wall, and it says on the brick wall, end of the universe. So you're driving along in your spaceship, and then they say, hey, there's a brick wall, and it says end of the universe, okay, stop the engines, turn it around. But then you think, obviously you think, well, what's behind the brick wall? Must be some, can't just all be bricks. Or if it is all bricks, is that an unlimited brick wall? Something's got to be unlimited, isn't it? And that's really, although we can accept that must be the case, because we're in the material world and everything is limited, it's very hard in material consciousness to understand that something's unlimited, because unlimited completely contradicts. You know, this is 72.3 centimeters. It's not an unlimited microphone. Everything, it's 7.8 inches. Nothing is unlimited. Everything we're in contact with in the material energy is limited. And then we take all that apparatus and we start thinking about the universe, and well, there's probably a brick wall. Well, what's behind the brick wall? Well, I don't know, maybe there's a few gardens and then another brick wall. And then after that, I don't know, a moat full of seawater, and then another brick wall. And then what's behind that? Oh, I don't know. So it's not, you know, we can kind of accept that things must be unlimited in one sense. And there also time is unlimited, that there's no beginning and there's no end, because beginning and ends are all within the jurisdiction of material. And spiritual doesn't have a beginning, it doesn't have an end, it just always is. Never was there a time when you didn't exist, nor in the future when you cease to exist. You always exist. The fact that you exist means you always exist. Anything that exists always exists. And if it doesn't, if there's no endurance, if the microphone stand is not going to be here in 10 million years, then it doesn't in one sense really exist. It only exists for a certain period of time, but there's no real endurance. Anything that doesn't endure doesn't really exist on the absolute platform. So that means all the problems, all the worries, all the things that we have, they don't actually exist. So it's really useful being Krishna conscious. You can solve a lot of problems actually, just by being Krishna conscious. Everything becomes so insignificant. But to really be Krishna conscious means you have to have knowledge. You have to have this weighty knowledge that, so that when you're approaching Krishna, you don't forget who he is. So there's a build-up. You know, if we just started reading all about Krishna, and he's like Srila Prabhupada wasn't keen on them making cartoons of Krishna, because he said they'll just think he's like another character, you know, like a Superman. Mm-hmm. But instead of wearing a pair of underpants over his trousers, he's wearing a dhoti, you know. Oh, here's Super Krishna. He can lift a hill. He can do far out things, you know. So it just becomes like that. So the Bhagavatam's laid out so that by the time that you go through all the different cantos, and by the time you get to the 10th canto, there's a lot of weighty knowledge that about universes being like mustard seeds, and then we can approach Krishna with value. We can value how valuable it is to be able to approach and think about Krishna and to serve Krishna. Very, very valuable commodity. Loving service to Krishna is the topmost. But to appreciate the value of that, you have to go through the other cantos. The other cantos are giving you the ingredients. When we say Krishna, what is that? When you're in the supermarket, you see, what is it? Well, it's Krishna. It's a box of Krishna flakes. Well, what's in it? Well, it says the universe is like mustard seeds, and he's unlimited, and he can control and he can maintain and annihilate without actually doing anything. Okay, so how much is it anyway? let's get a box of Krishna flakes. So the Bhagavatam is laid out so that with all the ingredients, all the information, so that by the time you get the item Krishna, you're pretty excited to get that in your breakfast bowl and to digest it. Any questions or comments?
You mentioned in the absolute realm, if there is no endurance, then there is no existence, and which makes us like the problems and everything appear so insignificant. So, what should we do then? Should we just leave the situation, leave the case, not at all look into it, not at all deal or work on it, and anything good, oh, it's just insignificant, it is not really good, or anything bad, oh, I'm having, say, some disease, oh, it's just insignificant, leave it, or I'm actually something betterment, say, oh, it's just insignificant.
Yeah, well, Krishna says if you become conscious of me, you'll pass over all the obstacles. Well, I'll help you pass over all the obstacles. He doesn't say the obstacles aren't there. So they say that before you want to leave the material world, you have to cry an ocean of tears. And material existence is compared to an ocean of misery. And that shrinks into the water contained within a calf's hoof print, which somebody estimated is about a quarter of a cup of water. So all the problems, an ocean of problems, I mean, we've got problems here, but how many problems are there in the universe? We're just experiencing our problem, trying to get up the hill, and there's my hair going across the ammonia without sliding down, which has happened on occasion, actually. I used to live at number 3. We were trying to get up one morning, trying to give myself. And we let go of the wall and started sliding backwards outside Mr. Prophet's house. And so that's, and in one sense, of course, you could say, well, it is a problem because we need to get there on time to do things, so we have to negotiate our way through things. But in the grand scheme of things, you can understand everything pales into insignificance. So Krishna consciousness means we're very particular about all the details to perform our devotional service. But the perspective is that it's only significant when it's connected to Krishna. And if we become disconnected from Krishna, then everything becomes overwhelmingly insurmountable. But that's not because of the problem itself, it's because of our forgetfulness of Krishna. So when you say something is insignificant, that has to be coupled with consciousness of Krishna. If you're just saying, like there was 2 lazy men. Actually, the king wanted to know who was lazy. And he said, well, he says, whoever's lazy, I'll give him 1,000 gold coins and a massive feast. So loads of people tell, well, I'm lazy. And then his friend says, well, I'm even lazier than you. So they all turn up at the assembly hall. And the king says, I've got a bit of a problem here. I don't know actually who is the laziest one. They don't mind rewarding the laziest man in my kingdom, But who's, and the minister said, well, set the assembly hall on fire. He said, so he set that on fire. Everyone ran out. And there was just 2 of them lying there. And one said to the other one, it's getting a bit hot in here. And the other one says, well, just roll over onto the other side. And then when that one moves, you can roll back on the other side, So then the king burst into the, okay, put the fire out. These are the 2 lazy, unbelievable. Give them a good meal. You know, so just being lazy and saying it's insignificant, that isn't going to. The insignificance of the material world is a byproduct of being conscious of Krishna. That should be a symptom of somebody that's actually conscious of Krishna. I mean, the biggest problem you can have is that you're going to die. There's nothing worse than that. That's the biggest problem. And Maharaj Krishna is sitting there for 7 days listening to the Bhagavatam. And he was completely undisturbed by the prospect of dying. He was actually okay about it, completely okay about it. He wasn't trying to fight it. He wasn't trying to make some arrangement, wear a crash helmet, or go inside a bunker with 5 rolls of toilet roll, or make all these arrangements. He was just okay, fine, He was able to accept. But you can only see death as insignificant, and everything else, therefore, as even more insignificant, if you truly, truly, truly are aware that you have a direct relationship, a living relationship with God, and you're conscious of Him and your relationship with Him, then that would be a symptom. Nothing disturbs him. Not because he's lazy, because he's conscious of Krishna. So that doesn't come easy, and that's what we're practicing, Krishna consciousness, to come to that point where we're not disturbed by anything. And we were having our japa sangha. If anybody gets easily depressed, they can leave the room just now. Is everyone okay? John, you okay? Yeah. Came up in the japa sangha, the way he was saying, well, now that I've started chanting, I didn't realize at first what a long way off Krishna was. He says, but now that I've taken it up, he says, Krishna looks a long, long way away. But that's not the depressing thought. This is the depressing thought. That's actually quite cheery compared to what's coming up next. Yeah, what it is, if you've been chanting for a few years and you realize it's 3,000 miles between you and the Lord, and you've made 3.7 millimeters advancement, and it's taking you 10 years to get there, and you're thinking, at the rate I'm going, it's going to take me about 700 years. I'm not going to have enough time at this rate. So that's what's daunting, is you start on. I mean, just starting it. I mean, we all know it's a long way off, but what we don't know when we first start Krishna consciousness, we think, well, I'll just chant for a couple of weeks, and I'll be up there with the demigods. By the 5th week, I'll be giving initiation, and so we're thinking it's going to be like that. And then when we start doing it, we realize actually this is taking a bit longer than I thought it was going to take. So then you start, I've got that far to go, and I've got this far, And anyway, the cherry thought is you can think, well, I really need to get into this then. I really need to give everything I've got. And because it's all based really upon mercy, if we can just make the best effort that we can, and we can do things with affection for Krishna, then we can access Krishna's mercy. And then if he decides, okay, I'll give him a hand, then we can do it. Otherwise, it will be very difficult. Yes, Andrew.
Yeah, just interesting what you were saying there. Body only came so many millimeters and it's 3,000 miles away. Looking at that is a materialistic thought, isn't it?
Yeah, that's another one. That it's all according to our estimation, but we're not taking into account is that God's going to help us to do it, and at any moment He can step in. And to God, I mean, all the universes are like a mustard seed. So what's 3,000 miles? It's not even half an inch for God, So we just need to bring Him into the equation, and we can say, look, I don't think I'm going to make this, but can you give me a hand? And that's what God's waiting for. He's just waiting for you to ask Him for help. And if you don't ask Him for help, He's like, okay, well, if you don't really want my help, then fine. You try and do it on your own. And then when you realize I can't do this, then Krishna can come in and work His magic, do the Krishna magic. Yes? Come on, get it out there. Don't be shy. Don't be shy.
I just want to keep moving.
This reminds me of a nice point John made in this class on Tuesday. He was quoting from Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada says, sometimes the king, desiring the prisoner's relief, person goes to the prison and pleads for reformation, and on his doing so, the prisoners are set free. So I asked the question, what is it about the king going that gives the prisoners the kind of ability to not commit those crimes again? Trying to explain this, and it's like just the other example of the two birds on the tree. So one of the birds is just like trying to enjoy the fruits, but then if somehow or other he turns and he sees that the other bird is Krishna and that this bird's so kind to be there all the time for him, then that kind of, it's like you said, it's only by affection you get mercy. So when we realize, Krishna's actually been with us like all the time, just waiting for us. I think that was a nice point. It's like,
and that actually is an incentive to reform.
Because you remember that it wasn't just anybody who let me out. It wasn't just anybody who let me out of the prison. It was actually Krishna came personally. So the example of the king in one sense is probably because we've got a bad opinion of kings. But like,
Nice king.
Very, very nice king. Very nice king.
So the dynamic there is that when one is shown love and affection, then he reforms because he appreciates that he's been understood, he's been accepted for what he is. And so rather than being judged, when a person's judged, nobody likes being judged or diagnosed generally. So when you're judged, the general tendency is to try and defend yourself. And rather than trying to understand what the judgment is, you spend all your time trying to deflect it. So all the energy goes into defending. But if the person doesn't judge you, and he just accepts you and understands you and why you did that, then you'll be more inclined to reform. If you realize the person understands why you did what you did, but wasn't pleased with what you did, then because there's no affection in your heart for that person, then you'll naturally want to reform, rather than do this the way I say it or else. So you can't do it the way, like God could be like that, He could be, well look, bow down to me, or I'm going to send the thunderbolt down. But you can see what that type of thing does after a while, right? People start not doing it. There's no thunderbolt. They think, oh, yes, that time. And that's the situation, the present situation now, because he wasn't presented in a nice way in the first place. He wasn't presented as a nice king. He was presented as a kind of agitated king that maybe bumps into things at times. And, oh, sorry about that. Was that an earthquake? Oh, sorry. Was that 10,000 innocent people just fell down like that? Sorry about that, Kev. I was just moving the chair. And so that puts everyone up, isn't it? It's like Monty Python, they come up and they start saying, oh, he says, will you stop those reverential hymns? I'm getting fed up with it. So it's like a kind of angry, upset person. But he's not. And he understands us that well, that even when we forget what our desires are, he reminds us, like we think, I'm going to be a pure devotee now. And then Krishna kind of says, are you sure you really want to be one? Because remember last lifetime you wanted to be a train robber? Oh yeah, that's right, yeah, I did, yeah, okay. And then you take up, so he's like, he doesn't want to take away your desires, even though it's going to interfere with, unless you want him to. You can say, look, I've got this independence and I'm misusing it. Can you interfere? Can you step in? Can you intervene? Can you direct me in such a way that I never forget you? And I appreciate more and more and more every day how valuable my relationship is with you. And then Krishna's, yeah, I can do anything I want. I mean, if you can lift a mustard seed and not notice it, that means anything inside that mustard seed, any tiny little adjustment you need, he can do it, you know. But Mahaprabhu was making a very nice point. He says a lot of the time when we pray, we're praying and at the same time we're thinking, we're saying, oh please, please make me a pure devotee. Please let me be free of this and that. And at the same time as we're praying, we're thinking, this is never going to happen. There's no way he's going to. He probably doesn't even. He's probably not even knows I'm praying. He's probably playing with the cowherd voice right now and take the sound of the frog. He doesn't even. You know, I'm a little squeaky voice in a speck in a mustard seed, a trillion miles away. You know, how's he even going? So we're praying like that. So that really does reduce the potency of the prayer. He said a really, really good way to pray. He said it helped him so much since he started praying like that. As you pray and you visualize the prayer being answered. So you're saying, please make me a pure devotee, and then you think, I wonder what that would be like, you know, to be a pure devotee, to be free of any selfish motive, and to just, my heart's just overwhelming with love and appreciation. Oh, that would be so amazing. And then if you're praying like that, then it's with faith, and then Krishna's like, wow, this guy's really, he's really going to go places, and then he can start fulfilling your prayers. So when you make a prayer, visualize the prayer being fulfilled at the same time. And then Krishna can do it. Otherwise Krishna's like, well, I don't want to prove you wrong. If you don't really think I can do it, okay, then I won't really do it. I don't want to upset you by proving you wrong. So the art of prayer. And I was just reading this morning in my japa affirmations book by Mahaprabhu, that the essence of prayer is feeling. Because you could be saying, oh Lord, who art in heaven, hallowed be, and I am, and forgive us our trespasses. And you're saying everything, but you don't really feel it. You're just thinking, when's this going to finish so I can get down the pub with my mates, you know? So the essence of prayer is feeling, not reciting things, but actually giving your heart, connecting emotionally to this desire to please and remember and absorb in Krishna. That's the essence of prayer. And we lay all our emphasis on hearing, that we need to hear, we need to hear, we need to hear what we're chanting, we need to hear. But even better than hearing the holy name is to feel the holy name, to feel Krishna, to feel his presence. And he's a concrete reality that he is there. He's a conscious, sentient being. He's aware of you. He's aware of what you're thinking. Any other questions or comments? Yeah.
We often see, notifications to pray for people in other parts of the world and all sorts of situations, especially now, Bangladesh. So,
yeah.
And I suppose philosophically, in one sense, we understand the only solution to the situation is that actually people are Krishna conscious. So it's an appropriate prayer. How can we mean it? How can we mean it when we pray for others, when we understand that really there isn't a material solution to them?
Well, Sri Rama was saying when he prays for others, he just prays that they don't forget Krishna. Somebody asked him a question the other day, they were saying, well, how do we understand that Krishna always protects his devotees and the devotees end up in very difficult situations? And he was saying, well, Krishna protects you, but, you know, if you like yesterday, I was trying to cut the cucumber fast, and that's what it ended up. Now I could have just said, you know, I'm not cooking Krishna because he didn't protect me, you know. Okay, I missed the cucumber, that's fine. You didn't have to make it cut my finger, you could have just made it bounce off my finger, you know. But we accept, right? We know Krishna's protecting us, but we know at the same time we can cut our finger. So he was saying, when you go to the train station and you miss the train, you think, oh no. But then suddenly on the platform comes the express, and you get there 2 hours faster than you would if you got the other train. So somebody may leave the body when they're 80, somebody may leave the body when they're 25, and they end up going to a heavenly planet, and Narada Muni should go to do a discourse, and then you go straight to Vaikuntha. So we, in our immediate experience of what's going on, we're not able to appreciate, but we can have the faith of whatever it is that's happening between Krishna and his devotee. It's Krishna's way of protecting that devotee and bringing him closer to him. And so that can be hard when you're looking at somebody else's karma and what they're going through and thinking, oh, I don't think I can go through that. Is Krishna really going to help me? But he's going to help you according to who you are and what it is you need to learn, which won't be the same lessons as another person that's going through whatever they're going through. Like with Abhimanyu, he was Kartikeya, expansion of Kartikeya, and there was a certain point where his time was up, and that was it. So he entered the stage, and then he had to exit at a certain point. And people get really upset. Well, no, he should be here a bit longer. You don't know what the full drama, what's really going on. So you can't. If you just react to what's going on immediately around you, then it's all very ego orientated. So we have to step out our egocentric paradigm of the world and try and see it from Krishna's perspective. Why is he doing what he's doing? He knows we don't belong here in the material world in the first place. And he's, even when we're not trying to go toward Krishna, he's scheming to make arrangements so that we come to the conclusion that this is no good. That's even when you're proactively trying to avoid Krishna, he's still putting sand in the sweet rice. Suddenly you're thinking, this is terrible, I just can't seem to get it right. Now, if you actually turn toward him and decide, no, I want to go, you can imagine how much more reciprocation is going to be there. How much more he's going to step into the picture and interact with you. So, every now and again we connect and we enter into that dialogue with the Lord, and we're able to understand very clearly what's going on and why he's doing what he's doing, but it's not always the case, at least in the beginning stages of Krishna consciousness. But that in the later stages, as you become very advanced spiritually, you're fully aware of what's going on and why it has to go on the way it's going on. That's why the highest devotee, the Uttama Adhikari, he sees everything's Krishna's arrangement, whatever's going on. Everything is to bring the living entity closer. Even if it seems like he's going further away, he goes through some intense suffering, but then it swings around and then he goes really, really. It's like, if you go to a diving board, you just walk up to the diving board and you do a Mr. Bean where you freeze and then you kind of go off it. But if you go to the diving board and you bounce on the diving board, it goes down and then you go, and then you go so much further. So when you're going through difficulty and you continue on with determination, then you ping into a high level. So that's why the difficulties are there, to ping us into high levels of Krishna consciousness, not that we just go through our lives frozen with fear. We don't attempt anything. And every time there's some kind of disturbance, we're trying to resist it. We have to accept life with an unconditional yes and embrace everything. Okay, what am I supposed to learn from this? Okay, what's this? And we know we have to be enthusiastic. We have to be enthusiastic to be enthusiastic when we don't feel enthusiastic.
When you said there about being advanced spiritual,
Yeah.
do you mean with knowledge there?
Yeah,
Just
no.
referring back to earlier when you said it's unlimited spirituality.
Yeah, there's definite stages when you're practicing spiritual life. It's interesting because although on the one hand, spiritual life is unlimited and there's no like measurements or demarcation. As you're rising out of the material energy, you become less fettered. So when you come to the highest stage, it's called Uttama. Tama is ignorance. Uttama means completely above any ignorance at all. When you're fully 100% spiritually switched on, then you're aware that every single living entity is serving Krishna in one way or another, because they're all doing what he wants according to his plan. And we can read about it and accept it philosophically, but it's also a state of consciousness that can be achieved where you're actually not just accepting it, but you're perceiving it. You're aware, wow, everything is Krishna's arrangement. And the example given is the king was with his minister, and he said, I've just cut the top of my finger off, and the minister said, well, that's Krishna's mercy. And he said, it's Krishna's mercy. He said, yeah, everything that goes on is Krishna's mercy. He says, oh, I'm going to throw you in jail for being cheeky. And he says, well, that's Krishna's mercy as well. He says, well, that's fine. And they locked him in the smelly jail, in the smelly dungeon. He said, well, there you go. Go and enjoy Krishna's mercy. So he went off hunting, and he got caught by these Durga worshippers, and they had him on the stake, rope around him, and they were doing the and then they looked, and he's Mr. Cucumber and cut his finger off. We can't offer him, that's rubbish. And so they cut the ropes and say, get lost. You're an offense to Durga, we don't have anything to do with you. And they wrote. So the king came back and he said, you were completely right to the minister. He said, you were right, but I still don't understand how it was Krishna's mercy that you got thrown in the jail. And the minister said, well, who goes with you when you're hunting only? I did, right? He said, well, I've got all my fingers, so I would have been in the pot instead. Yeah? And then the king says, oh, Krishna's mercy. So sometimes Krishna's mercy is only something which you can appreciate in hindsight. But if you're really, really conscious, then when you chop your finger off, you'd go, wow, Krishna, thank you so much, Krishna. You'd know right away. So that's what we want to get. I wasn't thinking, thank you, Krishna, but I was thinking when I cut my finger, okay, I need to be a bit more focused here. I'm not thinking of Krishna enough. He's giving me a bit more. Get yourself together. Yes.
Sometimes Krishna uses his Adhikaris in a situation where they have to get angry because that's the pastime.
Yeah.
So, like Bhima and Arjuna and
Yeah.
in various situations. So, I'm not suggesting that we should think like that because that would be like Sahajya. But Krishna can use anybody as well. So,
Yeah.
does he not also use our neophyte nature to bring about situations where...
Yeah. Like Kamsa, because Kamsa wanted to kill Devaki, and he was weighing up the pros and cons, and there was nothing stopping. He could have just walked in, and he wanted to chop her head off. And but he had this internal dialogue going on. But if you do that, people will, it's your sister, and she's pregnant. That's the conscience was speaking to him. He was thinking, I suppose you're right, yeah. So he wanted to, but even though he was an out demon. You couldn't get further away from being Krishna conscious than Kamsa. He was a nasty piece of work, and even he was being dictated to behave in a certain way. So Krishna can step in. If he can do that with the demon, he can definitely do it with someone trying to use devotee. Krishna can step in and just dictate, no, you're not going to be coming there at all, because that's not going to be my pastime. So no way. You're just not going to be able to get it together to think of a good reason to do it. No matter how hard you try, it's just not going to work. And then he said to the wives of the Brahmins, were saying, well, we can't leave you now, Krishna. And Krishna said, you just go back. And they said, there's no way, our husbands, they're into rules and regulations like anything. There's no way. We've run out in the dead of night to meet another man. There's no way that they're ever going to. Krishna said, don't worry, I'll take care of it. And when they all went back, oh, you're back, it's the dead of night, are you okay? In fact, the kings were actually, the husbands were actually thinking, I wish I had the courage. And that was the last thing the wives thought, the way they would react. And Satyananda Swami was saying in the book, The Living Name, if you chant really, really nicely, really, really attentively, you'll find that all the relationships you have with people will automatically be resolved. All of them. Krishna will just step in, the Lord in the heart will just rearrange people's attitudes, make them think in this way, make them see it in that way. and everything will be fine. So that's what you have to do. Chant Hare Krishna attentively, and then leave Krishna. Let go, let God. Stop trying to be the controller, you know. A lot of our anxiety is because we're thinking we're God. We're thinking that we're in control. So when you just let go, okay, well maybe I'm not actually not God, you know, because I'm not really conscious of anything really that's going on. I'm not even really conscious of what's going on in my body. Or a mood can suddenly come from nowhere, and it's like I didn't consciously decide I wanted to feel like that, but I'm feeling like that now. Well, that's not God. God's fully conscious and in control of everything. So we just need to be relieved of putting ourselves in this seat of being the controller, omniscient. It's a personality disorder. It's a compulsively obsessive personality disorder. The symptom is the person is in the process. If he's not fully aware of everything, he's in the process of becoming fully aware of everything. He's thinking he can do that. He can attend to every minor detail to create an environment where he says he has little antenna and is watching to see if he's incurring anyone's displeasure, because he wants to be in an environment where everyone's okay with him. Well, that's God, you know, that's not, you can't do that. If you try to do that, that's called the personality disorder. Means one of the cogwheels is not spinning around in the right direction. Maybe you know, control, maybe okay, I'll finish there. Let's come to the key.
Jai. Jai. His Grace Adhoksaja Prabhu Ki. Jai.